everyone, and welcome to Photoshop. This week's episode is going to be a little different because I've hit a bit of a creative rut recently. I've got so much stuff going on in my life that I'm finding it difficult to think about making art, because a lot of the work for making a piece of art comes before you even put pencil to paper. It's in the ideation, thinking about what you want to draw, making little thumbnail sketches and all of that sort of nonsense. I have had no time for that. My life is hectic. But if you're feeling a bit blocked up creatively as well, if you've just got too much on your mind to think about the creative process, don't stop making art. That's such a trap. You can really hurt yourself in the process of doing that. Sometimes you can stop for a really long period of time and it can be difficult to get those wheels moving again. So you've got to stay on it. But what do you draw when you don't know what to draw? Well, you come up with something that is easy to approach, something where you know what you're doing. So what I'm doing here, basically, I'm a big fan of Magic cards. You know, Magic the Gathering. I'm just addicted to that game. Love it. And I've always wondered what a set of basic lands would look like if I did them. So I thought, why not just give that a shot and make a bunch of thumbnails and see what I can come up with. It's easy to do. I know exactly what I'm drawing. It's a nice quick little project that can keep me creating even when I don't have time to really think about something more serious and meaningful. So if you're not familiar with Magic the Gathering, just Google it or something. Basically, there are 5 different land types in the game. It's a card game, tradable card game. And those types are plains, mountain, forest, island, and swamp. And I've already done a very loose sketch of the plains and the mountain. I'm currently working on the forest. So I'm going to talk you through my process for creating these thumbnails. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is that plains sucks. So the first one I did sucks, and this is normal. When you are working, you should always do a warm-up. Now, I did warm up in my sketchbook, just drawing hands and gestures and things like that. But when I jumped into Photoshop to start this, I was still not quite 100% warmed up, and so that first drawing sucks. But don't feel bad about it. Just understand that it's gonna suck, and then just push through and keep working, because the mountain came out better, and the forest will come out better. And as you keep on going, you tend to warm up, and you hit this peak around an hour, 2 hours into the process where you are producing work at a really optimum kind of level. You're loose, you're still got quite a bit of energy, and you're able to focus, and everything just comes out real natural. And I find that, at least for me, after about 3 hours, 4 hours of constant creation, at some point you begin to overthink things, and you start to get too tight in the details, and you start to become a little bit more tired and make costly mistakes and poor decisions. And that just, I guess, has something to do with mental fatigue. But I want to share with you a little bit of the process now. What am I actually doing? Well, with something that is intended to be quite small, these Magic cards are small, it's just a playing card. So the piece of art takes up about, a half of that space. So it is teeny tiny. So the most important thing to think about when designing something like this is that initial read. It has to look good at a distance, and you need to know what it is as soon as you look at it. It's all about clarity, and it's all about that first visual impact and showing people exactly where to look. Basically, if you're working on something really small like this, composition becomes extremely important. And that's actually one of my pet peeves with Magic cards these days. People are getting paid a pretty decent rate to make these cards, and often you'll get artists not wanting to under-deliver, I guess, on these cards, and so you have this very small image, but people pack in 10 characters or just put in way too much detail into this tiny little image of a mountain or something. And if you do bring up an image of the artwork on your computer screen or something and really look at it, it's almost universally amazing artwork. These artists are extremely skilled. But when you look at it on a card, sometimes it just doesn't read very well, or it just feels like way too much. And I can't help wondering if they focused a bit more on just getting a strong initial read and a really cool, interesting concept, that the cards wouldn't look better. So with these images that I'm creating for my fake magic card land set, I'm really trying to simplify things down, and you can see me now going back into that first planes that I had drawn and just wiping out a bunch of the stuff that was in there because it was just a bit messy and muddy and cluttered, and I decided that I would just simplify it down even more, and I think it reads so much better and it makes for a much more appealing aesthetic. And I know I am constantly beating the simplicity drum. I think about 50% of the episodes I make on this channel, I start a rant about how less is more, and details have a tendency of making things feel stiff and lifeless and all of that stuff. You've heard me say it 100 times, you're probably sick of hearing it, but there's a little bit more to that than what I'm saying, and that is the initial read should be very simple. An image that is successful should be pleasing at multiple distances. If I see one of these very small on the screen, or say in a gallery from the other end of the room, it should look good and it should entice you to approach the image. And as you're approaching the image, you should see a few of the little details kind of pop up, and it should excite your eyes even more. Enough that it should draw you in even closer to get your nose right up against it and really look at the details, like how the brush strokes were made and stuff. But finding a balance between those three viewing positions is incredibly difficult to do, because if you add too many little details, it's going to get messy at a distance. And if you make it just graphically pleasing at a distance, when you get up close, it's going to be underwhelming. So my advice, if you're tackling a problem like this, would be to initially divide up the composition into two elements. Basically, the light part and the dark part. At a distance, you should be able to read it as very clear forms that are separated from one another in pleasing shapes, right? And then those shapes will be further divided into the side that is kind of in shadow and the side that is light, but they should still be separated from one another by that initial value separation, if that makes any sense. So that mountain on the left of the screen now, you got the sky and then you have the ground and the mountain. Those are the two shapes. But then inside those shapes, there are light and dark areas. And that is the second level of detail, the viewing detail at the, standing at the ideal distance from the piece. When you get up close to it, currently there's no detail in there. But hopefully, when these things are completed, you'll be able to look closely at it and see all sorts of nice expressive little brush strokes, little details here and there, but those little details should never impact that initial read. You need to keep that as the most important, clear read. Now, I've pretty much finished here with the basic land types, and I had one little canvas left, and I thought, why not make an iconic card that isn't necessarily a land, but it is a really famous card. So I went ahead and decided to draw a soul ring, which, if you're familiar with the game, it's a very famous card, and it's a really simple, nice composition to finish off the page. Looking at them, I'm not sure if my style really suits magic cards. They've got a more serious tone. I tend to use really highly saturated, playful colors, which doesn't really fit within their design spec. Perhaps I can mute them down when I go in to add details, but I don't really want to change my style to suit something else. But it was a fun little experiment, and I think I'll probably put these onto actual card stock and make a whole set just for myself, and maybe give some to my brother who I play cards with and stuff. It's fun. So in summary, I guess if you are feeling a little bit art blocked and you don't know what to draw, why not set yourself a small project like this that's just fun? Maybe you pick 10 animals that you think are super cute and you try and draw them. Or do something similar to what I'm doing here and pick some sort of iconic artwork from a game or movie poster or something like that you like, and try and reimagine it in your own style and see what you can come up with. It can be really fun and it keeps you creating. That's the important thing. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and if you have any questions or suggestions for subjects for future videos, drop those down in the comments below and I'll get back to you. And let me know, which one of these do you like best? I think I like the island best, the one with the two things sticking out of the water. But I also kind of like that forest. I might detail these up in a future video and sort of show you the process of going that extra mile. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and until next week, I'll see you later.